Welcome back to the Progress Over Perfection podcast, where we talk to real people about real things involving weight loss, fitness, nutrition, and mindset. I'm your host, Ryan Johnson, and the show's produced by Josh Toller. If you haven't already, go ahead and add us wherever you listen to podcasts or subscribe to our YouTube channel to get weekly updates for the show. So today we are focusing on laying the foundations for sustainable health and wellness. We're zooming in on the very first steps you need to take on your journey towards better health. This episode is crucial for anyone at the start line wondering how to kick things off, or for those seeking to reinforce their path with strong, sustainable habits. Let's get right into how you can begin, why your mindset matters, and the importance of integrating small, consistent change into your daily life. As a reminder, this is a call-in style show, and if you'd like to be a caller on the show, please fill out the form linked in the description and the show notes. Before we dive a little deeper into laying those all-important foundations, let's quickly shift gears for a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by me. While we are busy out there looking for great deals to bring your way, I wanted to let you know, if you were looking for tips, motivation, and encouragement on your own weight loss journey, I'd encourage you to sign up for my weight loss newsletter at emailswithryan.com. It's like having an online coach delivered straight to your inbox, minus the sweat. Again, if you're looking for tips, motivation, success stories, anything to help you on your own weight loss journey, please sign up for my email newsletter at emailswithryan.com. Thanks again for listening to today's episode. All right, now let's get back to laying those strong, sustainable foundations for your health and wellness journey. Now, the first thing that I want you to understand, if you are just starting, is the first step is sometimes the hardest, but it is absolutely the most important. Taking that first step, no matter how small it may seem, that is what's going to start your journey off right. And one of the things that I know is in my weight loss journey, in my channel, growing my channel on YouTube, all of the things that I have done, one of the things, if you were to ask me to boil down one of the reasons I have been successful, it's because I really do believe in the idea of taking some sort of action. If you go back and actually watch my first YouTube videos, before I kind of settled and started using the phrase progress over perfection, I was toying around with the idea of saying action over perfection, because even then I knew that you are not going to be able to make and sustain any change, no matter how small, if you don't first make the change. So I want to encourage you all, if you are looking to lose weight and build sustainable habits, you have to make that first change, and you're going to absolutely learn while doing, but it is important for you to take that first step. You cannot steer a parked car. You've got to take that action. Now, after that, when we are talking specifically about weight loss, one of the things that I love to talk about, and one of the things that is important to remember, is you have to have the right mindset going into it. Having the right mindset is more important than having the perfect plan. Now, it doesn't matter if you're following intermittent fasting. It doesn't matter if you're following keto, low carb. If you spend all of the time looking for the perfect plan, but you haven't adopted the right mindset going into it, you're not going to have those lasting results. So what does that look like? So for me personally, one of the reasons that I struggled with my weight loss for so long, from the time that I was 18 until I was 33, I gained and lost the same 40 to 60 pounds more times than I can count. And that's because my mindset surrounding my weight loss was always, what is my goal? What are the things that I'm doing? And am I seeing the weight come down? I was solely focused on the result. I didn't have my mindset framed in such a way that I want to get ready and healthy to live the rest of my life. Now, that is something when I was 33 years old, I made the decision I was going to start intermittent fasting, and I approached it with, you know what? I've done quick weight loss before, and I've had results on the scale, but none of it has ever stuck. So I approached it with the mindset of, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And that's the approach and the mindset that I would encourage you to have if you were starting on your weight loss journey, is you got to figure out what you can do for the rest of your life. Because if you don't approach it with that mindset, That's where when you struggle, you're not going to stay consistent because you aren't thinking long term. You're only focused on kind of the here and now. And with that being said, the next thing is that importance of consistency. At the end of the day, the power of making those small, consistent changes over time, that is what is going to get you to your result. I talk about this all the time with some of my coaching clients when we talk about when it's time to figure out a workout routine. I would much rather have you work out, light to moderate 2 days a week and do that over a long period of time, because when you can do that, that's going to yield much better results than going very intense for 2 months. Maybe you work out 5 days a week. Even if you can do that for 2 months straight, very intense, at the end of that time, if you end up experiencing burnout, a year goes by and you've only got 40 workouts in. So my challenge and the thing to understand is by making those small steps, even if may seem insignificant, if you can stick with it for a long enough time, that's where you're going to see the results. I look at myself over these last 3 to 4 years, and really like in these last 2 years, my weight has remained pretty consistent, but I know my body composition's changing. I've probably put on 3 or 4 pounds of muscle, which that may not sound extraordinary, but that's pretty good over a 2 to 3 year time frame. But through that time, I have not done any extreme workouts. But what I have done is I've been working out consistently about 2 to 3 times a week for the last 3 years. And with doing no special workouts or trying to build muscle, I have been able to do so because I have been consistent. So that's the thing to understand. A small change done consistently, that's what we're looking for. And then finally, the last thing that I want to say about starting off is you have to understand and you have to expect and embrace the adjustments you are going to make along the way. I really do believe one of the things when we talk about finding a sustainable way to lose weight, we've got to find what works for us. What works for me may not work for you. What works for somebody else may not work for you, and it may. But the thing you have to understand is that as you go along, you have to expect to make adjustments. And we circle back to the beginning, right? You have to make those initial steps, see how it fits in with your life, and then make those adjustments. But to expect everything to go according to plan is unrealistic. So you've got to expect to make those adjustments when starting out. Now, next up, we're going to go ahead and we're going to have some people on and answer some questions. So we have our first caller for today's show, and it's Quinn. So I obviously know you, Quinn. We have kind of some social media friends over time, but man, how are you doing today?
It is a lovely day. I'm up in Canada where it's normally cold and we've got some warm weather. So we are celebrating with shorts and t-shirts. It's quite nice. I've got an iced coffee. There's almost nothing I can complain about.
Oh, good stuff. So we are having the opposite down here. It was a little colder today. I think it was outside this morning. I think it was like 74. So I had to put my hoodie on. So,
That's a Canadian summer.
Well, good stuff, man. So what's going on in your world? What questions do you have? What's on your mind right now?
My question is, I've sort of linked up with my oldest brother, and he also has a significant amount of fat to lose. And my question sort of would be, when somebody's starting out, what would you say are some either essential things or just really important things? I feel like you kind of just slightly touched on it, but for somebody who has no idea what they're doing, or they have, a lot of rust on their body, they haven't, worked out in years, how would you kind of go about that? What would you recommend for them?
Yeah, so this is one where, so I recognize that everybody is a little different. Everybody has specific needs, things they like, things they don't. And that's where, when it comes to intermittent fasting, listen, intermittent fasting is not a magic pill. It may not work for everybody. But the reason that I like it and the reason that I go back to it again and again is, for me, it's flexible. I enjoy it. All that to say, if somebody's looking to start weight, I tell them to look into it. And the reason is, a lot of the times when people struggle to lose weight and to stay consistent, it's because we have a tendency to overcomplicate, right? There are 1,000 things we could be doing: walking 10,000 steps a day, drinking a gallon of water, getting to the gym 4 times, cutting out all processed foods, getting our micronutrients. Like, there's 1,000 things you could do. The reason that I love intermittent fasting is because it simplifies it. At the end of the day, when you are looking to lose weight, the way that you're able to do that is by being in an energy deficit, whether that's consuming less calories or burning more calories. Like, so intermittent fasting is that very simple thing that I would recommend you try. Do it for a little bit and kind of see how you respond. So as a general statement, I recommend people try it. As a specific statement, and this is where, you're talking to your brother, seeing where he's at, what his life is like, going back to the taking small steps, figure out, of all of the healthy things you could do, which one do you think you can integrate easiest into your life? Do that for a while, then do the next one, then do the next one. Don't try to change your life on Monday. Just try to change one thing. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. I think that's great advice.
So I'll say, tell me a little bit about where did you start? What was the first thing you focused on?
So for me, it was just getting active. I felt like my eating was so out of control. I always joke that I don't have a sweet tooth. I have sweet teeth. I just have a mouth full of them. So anything with sugar, anything, processed or carby was just my favorite thing in the world. So I remember having to cut a lot of that out, not entirely, but just really reducing it significantly. And at the beginning, I was doing, 10-minute yoga workouts. I was going for a 60-minute walk, really anything that was sustainable, kind of easy, maybe slightly challenging. But yeah, at the beginning, it was just getting those good habits kind of in place. And then, like you said, sort of building upon them, just sort of brick by brick, getting whether it was my weightlifting. I don't think I even started weightlifting until maybe 2 months in to me really sort of focusing on losing weight. But yeah, just I think things like that. And then now it's just maintaining, trying to, shed some more weight, but do it properly, not do it too fast, not do it where, my whole life is focused entirely on that. I think having a nice balance is very appropriate, especially when it comes to losing weight, because I think too many people get lost in it and then they don't really enjoy the process. And then it's easy to kind of exit the process and go back to your old habits. So I think just finding things that are sustainable, that are enjoyable, I feel like that's pretty essential.
No, I love that. And I think that's one of the important things too, is you have to ask yourself, like, am I enjoying this? If the answer to that question is no, it doesn't mean like everything doesn't work, but maybe you find the things that are moving you in the right direction that you are enjoying, because that's where you're going to keep it up for the long term. So no, I love that, man. And again, that's great advice. Like you said, starting out with increasing the activity, but you still didn't weight train for the first 2 months. Like, you started out doing something and then increase it over time. Like, you can't go from 0 to 100 and expect the wheels not to fall off. So I love that. Well, thanks so much, man. I, again, really appreciate you hopping on today, and always great talking with you, man.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Sindhu. If anybody wants to check out, she's got a YouTube channel as well. It's Memphis TN Living is the YouTube channel. And I love that. And I think as crazy as it sounds, as big as the YouTube channel is right now, unfortunately, I'm no longer able to respond to every comment. I think I lost that ability at around 30,000 subscribers. And I now am even at the point where I'm not able to see every comment anymore, but there are certain people that you see over and over again. And whenever I see you tuning in on the videos, it means a lot to me. So I'm excited to have you today. How's everything in your world?
Life is beautiful. Everything is going great.
Oh, good stuff. So what's your question today?
My simple question, I see that you have a routine. You try to stick to intermittent fasting schedule. You do your workouts. Also, you really count your calories. So, is it possible to maintain a healthy weight range without exercising, but simply walking and sticking to the intermittent fasting window?
Yeah. So I think that question comes down to like, what do you need to do, one, to maintain, and I get this question all the time, like, what do you need to do to lose weight? And the reality, this is where everybody has a very individual journey. Everybody's needs are a little different. So my recommendation is I absolutely am a proponent of tracking. I have tracked in a lot of different methods over the years, and tracking can come in many forms. For me, I have tracked calories before. When I started with intermittent fasting, initially I just fasted, but then I tracked calories so that I get an idea, because again, you do have to eat in a deficit to lose weight. But then I also tracked my progress. So I did that with stepping on the scale regularly. I took progress photos every week. Now I track my progress, and I still track my food. Now I do it through the videos. I don't count my calories anymore. I got an internal clock that's always going, but just by even recording, 5 out of 7 days out of the week, I record what I eat. That's a way to kind of track. The reason why it's important for us to track individually is because that's going to tell us whether or not what we're doing is working. So for somebody like you, my recommendation would be, look at if we want to track weight or we want to track how our clothes are fitting. There's a lot of ways to track progress. We track that, get a baseline of kind of where we're at, then track your steps and your food, or one or the other, but just have some metric. Do that for a period of 2 to 3 weeks at least. Oftentimes I think we look for results in a week and like, oh, that didn't work, and then change the plan. Like changing the plan too often doesn't kind of yield us the results, but track for, 3 weeks to a month, see if it's working for you, meaning if your food is remaining consistent, your weight is remaining consistent, and your steps are remaining consistent, well, then you now have the blueprint of what you need to do to maintain. If you'd like to lose, that's where we can adjust one of those things. We can either maybe increase steps a little bit or decrease our calories just a little bit, but it starts with tracking, and then that will give you the feedback on what's going to work for you. That's where I kind of settled around 2,400 calories. For me, that's about what I need for maintenance. If I go a little more, I'll gain a little weight. If I go a little under, I'll lose. Does that make sense?
That's a very great explanation. And you mentioned about the 2,400 calories. I checked the BMR range, and do you give any buffer on top of what the BMR calculator shows? Say my BMR range is typically in 1,400 to 1,500 ranges. So can I jack it up to 2,000, or how does that work?
Yeah, so that's where everybody is drastically different on what their basic metabolic rate is, because there are so many independent variables that go into that. Things like thyroid function. There's just a lot of things that go into metabolism. And one of the things to understand is like subconsciously, once you start to reduce calories too low, you may not realize it, but one of the ways that we burn calories is like fidgeting, right? That's one of the things we do just naturally. We burn calories that way. And when calories get low, you may not realize it, but you start to reduce your energy expenditure. That's your body's way to preserve energy. So as you reduce calories, you are also reducing your expenditure. So it's like a race to the bottom. All that to say, the long answer to your short question is my recommendation is to track your calories for about 3 weeks and track your weight. And then that's going to give you your baseline. So what does that look like? So say for you start out with picking an arbitrary number, say it's 1,800, try to hit around 1,800. Again, that's a daily average, not necessarily every day. So if you have a day at 1,600 and a day at 2,000 and a day at 1,800, that's average 1,800. You track your calories for 3 weeks, you track your weight for 3 weeks, and then see what your weight did. If you maintain, well, now we know 1,800 is your individualized, not off of some computer, that is your BMR. If your activity remains about the same. If you are averaging 1,800 and you're losing slightly, well, now you are eating in a deficit, so you could increase it. And then if you're averaging 1,800 and you go up in weight a little bit, now you're eating in a slight surplus.
So do you think exercise is something that we really need to bring into the picture within a certain time period, or just sticking onto these 3 items will help us lose and maintain weight.
So I'll always go back to build one habit and then add to it. When it comes to exercise timing, my recommendation is always just going to be do it when it fits into your schedule, because at the end of the day, we're looking for the optimal time to work out. And really the best time to work out is when you can do it consistently, because getting those workouts in over years is going to do better than having a perfectly timed workout 3 days out of the week and then you never do it again. All right. Well, thank you very much again. I really appreciate you joining us today. And as always, great seeing you in the comments.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Anytime.
All right. Next up, we have Ryan.
What's up, Ryan?
Hey, what's good, man? Man, I knew, like, when I saw Ryan, all the coolest people I know are named Ryan. I can't help it.
There's no bad looking Ryans out there. You got Ryan Gosling, Ryan Reynolds, like, list goes on. You?
So I think, so when I started on YouTube, I didn't have my beard. And every once in a while I'd get a comment like, man, you look like you're a thicker Ryan Reynolds. And I'd be like, stop it. Like that's why I grew the beard out. Like that stuff inflates my ego, but no, all the coolest people I know. Well, good stuff, man. How's everything in your world?
Busy, but good. Got 2 kids upstairs, not going down for a nap. So if you hear anyone running down, that's them.
Oh no, for sure. So we're recording these today, and Nana was nice enough to take the girls, and they're out having, it's a day off of school, so they're enjoying that. Well, good stuff, man. What's your question for today?
Yeah, I want to know. I mean, it's different to be healthy, right? It's different when you're prioritizing food differently and conscious of your calories. It's not the norm. So I want to know anything that you guys or you do specifically that helps you kind of fit into society without making people feel uncomfortable. Because in the past, I've made people feel uncomfortable. It's like I say no to some drinks or some activities or whatnot. I want to know how you make it work.
No, so that is a great question. I think one of the things that I think about, and this has changed and evolved over time, and I would be lying if I said some of it doesn't have to do with the fact that I'm getting older. I am getting a little more mature. They say, like, as you get older, you start to care a little less about what other people think. So that absolutely plays a part of it. But one of the things that I tell people when it comes to, and again, I just use intermittent fasting as an example because that's the world that I live in, right? Like, if you're going out with family and saying, like, hey, you're at the in-laws' house and, Nana makes a great breakfast spread, right? Like saying no thank you to this breakfast casserole that she's labored over. The thing that I have learned and the thing that I encourage everybody with is obviously you don't want to be rude. You don't want to come across that way, but you also don't need to over-explain yourself either, because I think sometimes we do get in our own heads about what other people think about what we're doing when it comes to nutrition. And like in the example of, if you're starting with intermittent fasting, how do you skip breakfast when everybody's doing it? It could be as simple as I'm not hungry, right? Not a lot of people press on that.
Sure.
And then as a practical example, I'll say, your closest friends or your family right now, can you tell me what kind of diet and nutrition style they are following? And then when you think about that, that's where I think, you don't think about what other people are eating, and people really don't think about what you're eating either. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally hits home. I mean, I do know what my friends and family are eating because I work with them sometimes. But no, that makes total sense. I've actually never thought of it. I think there is a lot of external pressures to do things that are 100% in your head. Like they're not really that external. It's something that you think someone's putting on you rather than actual reality.
Yeah, and that's where, so that is a thought that I recently have had, really in the last 6 months, I have been able to express that exact thought about they are not thinking about it as much as you are. But the other thing I will say is when it comes to maybe having some flexibility in what you do, because they're having donuts at the office to celebrate a goal that you hit, right? Like you do want to be hospitable, and you don't want to cut out those sociable events and things like that. That's where the practical tip there is you just look at the frequency of it, right? Like you follow that 80-20 rule. If donuts come in every Tuesday because it's Donut Tuesday, well, then, just learn to say, no, thank you, I'm not hungry. But if it is a one-time thing, or you got a brother or sister's wedding coming up, you look at the frequency and then you just allow yourself that flexibility to maybe bend a little bit. And I think one of the things that I have found is if you approach those special events with the mindset of, I can't do it, that's kind of where you're going to struggle, because you don't want to leave your brother's wedding and think, man, I didn't even have a piece of his wedding cake either. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I always kind of go towards like the hell yeah or the no thank you. Like for me, donuts are my thing. I had donuts at my wedding. So when you said birthday cake or wedding cake, I'm like, we had donuts. I love them. But now if someone brings in some, cheap donut holes or anything like that, it's easy to pass compared to like if it's a Bavarian cream filled chocolate Long John, like move over. I'm having one for sure, no matter what phase I'm in my life.
Oh, no. Good stuff. So talk to me a little bit about, so I know you work with people, Ryan, helping lose weight and kind of build some of those habits, kind of circling back to starting. Can I put you on the spot for a second?
For sure.
If you had to think, what do you think is, of all the things you could start with, what would you start with?
I would start with making it so simple you feel silly not doing it. So for instance, if it's like, going for a walk, like setting aside time. If you're afraid to kind of go for a walk, put on your walking shoes. Like just start there. Every day, wake up, the time that you're going to go for a walk, just put on your shoes. And then take your shoes off and then start off your normal day. Or, walk to the mailbox and back. Start so simple that you feel weird not doing it. If it comes back to workouts, it kind of comes where you're comfortable with, because I never want anyone to go into an environment where they're not comfortable and then they get scared and now we're set back like another 5 years, right? So if you used to be like an athlete and you gained weight, getting back after that can be hard because you have this preconceived notion of where you should be. Like, oh, I used to be able to bench 225 and now I can't do that. Well, no kidding. You haven't benched 225 in 8 years. Like, get over here. You're not into college anymore or whatever. But, starting off with, I remember I like to bench. I like doing that exercise. And start off with the bar. There's no shame. Like, again, how people probably don't judge you how you're eating. They're probably not judging you in the weight room like you think they are anyway. So just get in there, go do the things that are going to move the needle in the right direction. But like start so simple you feel silly not doing it. One of my favorite stories, I introduced someone to a gym. I just had them come and say hi before they even joined the gym. So they were thinking about it. I was like, yeah, walk through the front doors, just say I'm saying hi to Ryan. He'd walk in, say hi to me, and walk out. And then he started having the shakes there. And then he started having coffee and the shakes there. I'm like, well, while you're here, you might as well just hop on a treadmill and, drink your coffee while you're walking. And then he started off with that. And he's like, hey, can you show me some machines? And sure, show you like 2 machines at a time. And like 6 months later, the dude was super consistent showing up to the gym every day. And like, there's no doubt in my mind that he's still at that same gym hitting his routine because it was so simple that he just had to say, what's up? Like on his way, like he worked next door. So he walked over, said what's up, and then he went home. And he just added a little bit more time every time. So start so simple, you could never justify not doing it. Like try to take all friction away. If it's incline push-ups in your counter, or every time you go to the bathroom, do like 5 or 10 squats. Like, again, very simple.
I love that.
Start there.
Well, good stuff, man. Well, again, thanks for jumping on. I really do appreciate it. Great talking with you, man.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Next up, we got Trevor. Hey, what's good, man? How's everything in your world?
You know what? I got 3 boys upstairs too, but they're being quiet for now. So we'll see how long it lasts.
Now, they're too quiet for too long. That's an issue as well.
Oh my goodness, you're not wrong. There's something's broke. No, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on and talk.
Nah, good stuff, man. I'm looking forward to it. So, what's your question today? What's on your mind, man?
I mean, I watched your YouTube videos for a long time. I have kind of the opposite starting point that you did. I started lifting weights first and then went to diet. So once I plateaued with kind of how bad my diet was, then I started wasting my workouts. And so it was one of those frustrating things. But just like Ryan, the previous guest, said, I was a previous athlete. So when I got in there, it was very depressing to start. But one of the things I found to be the best thing was just having somebody to go that knew what they were talking about, knew what they were doing. And we just had a motto that they're going to walk, and they can't walk for me, but I can walk with them. And we just walk together. And we actually said something very similar. It's pursuit, not perfection. That's what we would say. It's pursuit, not perfection. So we would say that actually at the gym a lot. We were just like, hey, we're just pursuing health, whatever that looks like today. It might be lifting, or for me, it was protein. That's always what I did diet wise. Just prioritize protein to start and take that next step.
No,
Question,
I
guess,
love.
for
I
you.
say I love that.
Oh, go ahead. I got
No,
my question to make sure you
Yeah.
had a chance to answer it. But I've been now at the same weight for almost a year. I've been working out 2 years straight. Yesterday, so almost every day. I've maybe missed 2 days in a row for 2 years, and I'm just finding the place where that mindset that you were talking about has to shift. And so now this mindset that now was just like get the weight off, maintain. Now it's what your motto of your channel is. It's like, how can I make this something that lasts forever? What mindset changed in you where all of a sudden you've taken these baby steps, but now you're in a place of consistency for a lifetime?
Yeah, no, I love that question. I can almost visualize where I was when I made that mindset shift. So I've now been intermittent fasting for, it's crazy how time flies, coming up on 4 years. And I started at around 270 pounds. I was super fit when I was in the Army. And it's like you talk about, like, and Ryan talked about, like, it can be depressing to know where you were and where you've come to. So I remember where I was when I needed to make a change. It was standing in our bedroom right outside the bathroom, looking in the mirror and like, I gotta make a change. But then the mindset shift that happened to me was about probably 3 to 5 weeks after I started. I remember I tracked very diligently. I was tracking my weight. I was losing about 2.5 pounds a week. And I remember looking at my phone and thinking that I was doing the same things that I'd done before. I was going all in. I was going to lose this weight. I was going to get back to my former glory as fast as possible. But I remember the realization is like, you've been on this trip before, you know how it ends. And I struggle. I'm an all or nothing mentality. Like I'm very obsessive. It's just the way that I'm wired. When I set my mind to something, like I'm going to make it happen. But I remember thinking, I'm losing weight too fast. I want to start eating more because I don't want to do this as fast as possible. I want to do this forever. So I'm going to go all in on it being sustainable. So what does that look like in my real life? I am having that question with myself. Like, am I enjoying this? Can I keep this up? And that became the thing that I was pursuing. Now, am I the most ripped guy? Not even close. Like, am I, like, I still don't, no, seriously, like 4 years later, I still don't have a six pack. I can't tell you how many times people are like, dude, nothing is changing with you. And to some of that, I say, I mean, well, maybe one, celebrate like maintenance. Like that in and of itself is something to be celebrated. But I have in the back of my mind, I want to be in better shape at 45 than I was at 25. I think that's possible. The only way that I'm going to do it is by staying consistent for a decade. And the way that I'm going to stay consistent for a decade is like, can I keep this up?
And I guess the secondary thought on this is like, do you have the mentality of recognizing that healthy living has actually changed your mindset totally? Where it's like, I talk a lot about this at the gym because I do have a body that a lot of people look for. And like genetically, I think I've just been a little gifted because I know that, like you've said multiple times, every person is so different. And I'm working with a guy right now that's a trucker and he's trying to lose some weight. And oftentimes he compares himself to me and I like look at him like, bro, we're different people. But I tell him the benefit that I love the most is actually how I feel, not how I look. It's like the mindset of being healthy is the thing that I try to latch onto more as I get away from the weight loss, as I try to remind myself that like there's a different mindset in being healthy. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that I think about is like write down, if you never had the ability to step on a scale, write down all of the things that you actually want. I want to look good in clothes. I want to be able to keep up with my girls at the water park. I want to be able to run a 5K at a moment's notice. Like, hey, there's a 5K tomorrow. You want to do it? Yeah, I can do that. Like, write all of the things that you want if you never had the ability to step on a scale. And then as you are progressing, are you getting closer to those? And if the answer to that is yes, that's where you're chasing something outside of just the number, because the number is going to let you down.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's awesome.
Well, good stuff, man. Again, thanks. Appreciate you jumping on. And Again, I love hearing stories of people doing it their own way and finding, and that's the thing that I really believe is that's the thing that's lost is it's not one size fits all. You gotta find your path.
And I love that stacking mentality. That's such a good thing. That's exactly what I think everybody that's lost a lot of weight, they do. They just start with one little simple thing and then just stack stuff. I think that's really smart.
Well, good stuff, man. Thanks again for joining me today. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. And as a reminder, if you have questions like these or would like to be on the show, please fill out the form linked in the description and the show notes. Now, next up, we have a portion of the show where we go to the comment sections from some of my YouTube videos. And today's comment comes from Keep Fear in It 201 said, will the first episode be about how starving yourself for 22 hours and then binging at a Chick-fil-A is the secret to optimum health and nutrition? So today's comment actually comes from a post where I shared that I would be starting the podcast, and I got this gem of a comment asking if the secret to optimum health is basically fasting all day just to hit up a Chick-fil-A. Now, I should clarify, the 30-count nugget from Chick-fil-A is amazing. In all seriousness, this comment highlights precisely why we are kicking off the Progress Over Perfection podcast. It's not about endorsing extreme habits or suggesting a one-size-fits-all solution to nutrition. My approach in the heart of this podcast is rooted in sharing realistic, sustainable strategies for weight loss and health. I am no expert, but what I am passionate about is exploring varied paths to wellness that can fit into real, everyday lives. Sure, fasting and enjoying your favorite foods can be a part of that, but it's more about the balance and understanding your body and making informed choices that lead to progress over perfection. We are here to dive into those nuanced, often messy journeys towards better health, including the occasional 30-count nugget meal. It's about creating a space to learn from each other, to embrace the journey, and to remember that striving for perfection often misses the point. Let's focus on making small, impactful changes, supporting each other, and yes, enjoying our favorite foods along the way in moderation. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Progress Over Perfection podcast. Remember, we're not looking to lose weight fast, we're looking to lose weight forever. If you have a question or would like to be a caller on the show, please hit us up at podcast@progressoverperfectionfitness.com and linked in the description. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for clips and shorts of the show and add us wherever you listen to your podcast. Thanks again for the support, and we will see you next week.